So I have a conspiracy theory about conspiracy theories. And just to be transparent, I really do have a theory about conspiracy theories, but I'm not sure if it's a true conspiracy. So I'm going to let you decide, but I am not here to spread conspiracy theories. Um, that's okay if that didn't make sense. So it doesn't matter whether you believe in conspiracy theories or not. The interesting thing about conspiracy theories is that we often don't even agree on what a conspiracy theory is. So, what's reality to one person may be a conspiracy to another, or vice versa. And before I get into my conspiracy theory about conspiracy theories, let's just talk about a few things that I think we can all agree to. Number one, the world is corrupt. I don't think there's a single person on planet Earth that doesn't know that there's a lot of deception. There are many people who are dishonest or who have ulterior motives. There are people in positions of power that have control over people that are less powerful. There's systems that are definitely not working for the majority of us. There's things that go on behind the scenes. And so we all agree to this, right? So what then is the difference between corruption and the understanding that the world is corrupt versus conspiracy theory? I don't know if I have a answer to that. I would put that question to you as well, to think about that. I would say to qualify more as a conspiracy theory, usually there's more of an intricate storyline. Most conspiracy theories, I think, are rooted in this idea that there is something very intentional and planned and not just haphazard things not working and, people. I think the idea of conspiracy theory is more that something's more organized and more intentional and things like that. Now, just to take this a little further, we know organized crime exists. We know that there are varying degrees and levels of corruption. Some of it is more intentional, behind the scenes, organized, focused. Some of it is maybe less intentional, but just based on systems that don't work, people using loopholes, people looking out for their own best interests and not really considering the best interests of others. I think there's like a spectrum that exists where there are some very organized things, and even the best of us are flawed in some way in terms of it's impossible to operate in a way in this world where there aren't things that you may be participating in or part of that aren't ultimately for the best good of everybody. So if we can just, I guess, agree to that first, I think that's helpful. So again, a little bit fuzzy on the idea of what a conspiracy theory is, but what inspired me to come on and share was that I was reading an article about a study that was done. So it was a university study done on some key, what they had deemed conspiracy theories, and some of their findings about where it came from and how it spread and all that kind of thing, which was interesting to read. But as I'm reading it, I'm thinking of the catch-22 where Now, I guess it wasn't necessarily intended to try and convince people believing in those particular conspiracy theories that it was that those things are not true. But I think we're all aware of the catch 22 of if you're really identified with a particular narrative and some of these deeper conspiracy theories, the very nature of them is that they get you to mistrust even the people that would do the studies that would, illuminate things about those conspiracy theories. So it's very difficult to offer any kind of evidence or any kind of perspective that wouldn't get rejected by those that are deeply committed to those conspiracy theories, because it's the very nature of how we select. And I'm sure we're all aware of this. This is true not just for conspiracy theories, but just in general for how I guess it's called confirmation bias, right? I'm sure there's other terms as well. So there's that phenomenon as well. Another thing just to bring into the mix here is that I don't think that there's a single one of us that doesn't see certain realities, things that we now accept as realities. And I know that certain realities may still not be accepted by other people, but just things that you now accept to be a reality. If somebody had told you 10, 20 years ago that this thing that is now what you would consider an accepted reality is true, you might have thought that that was a conspiracy theory, right? So reality itself demonstrates some of these things. So this is where it gets fuzzy, right? So what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm just kind of speaking outside of things, which I think is a really helpful way for us to get clear on certain things by looking at some of the broader phenomenon around some of these things. And so this is the overall purpose of this channel. So my name is Sheila, and the purpose of this channel is for us to zoom out and connect to the big picture and explore some of the broader phenomenon that we're all navigating, and look at some of these things just from a new angle, from a different vantage point, because I think often the conversations we have about these things are different depending on whatever we're connected to. So it just then further confirms itself, right? So, and I'm not claiming to be fully out of the, I'm sure that there's things that I'm zoomed in on as well. So let me just share my conspiracy theory about conspiracy theories. And it was sort of sparked from reading this article that I was talking about. And if you think about, if you bring it down to a dynamic between two people, and one person being controlling, manipulative, having certain ulterior motives, which most conspiracy theories are rooted around the idea of there being a very intentional, organized, nefarious, controlling motive to do with something that's mass, that's big, like the climate or certain health related things. Just to use examples from the article of some of the things that they saying, something I didn't even know about this, but something about wildfires. There's conspiracies around that, about why those things are happening. So this is just my assessment of what most conspiracy theories connect to, which may not be all conspiracy theories. So if we're to bring this down to a dynamic between two people, one person being very controlling, manipulative, all of that. So the primary tactic that someone would use to control another person would be to isolate them and to get them to mistrust any of the people around them or the wider world around them that could give them support or that would challenge whatever it is that this person wants them to do. So the goal of the manipulator or the controller is to get this person to follow and believe and buy into whatever it is that this person wants them to do, and to mistrust and isolate themselves from the rest of the world. Ideas are probably the most powerful tool. What we believe to be true has a very powerful hold on us. So my conspiracy theory about conspiracy theories is, if it is true that there is a group of people, an elite group of people who are controlling the masses, then one of the most effective ways for them to do that is to create narratives and storylines and to use the thing that we're all connected to and plugged into the most, social media and information, and to create the narratives that would get people to look in the opposite direction that they want them to look, to mistrust the world and communities and other people in institutions and media and things like that. Okay, so no, as I'm saying this, remember what we talked about at the beginning. The world is corrupt. We all agree that, right? Okay, so this is where it gets, I think we have a tendency to go either one way or another. And when a lot of conspiracy theories really capitalize on our mistrust of the world and on all the ways that we've been deceived. And of course, that's real and that's true. And it just sort of takes it a little bit further and formulates it a little bit more. So what I'm saying is, any narrative or idea that puts us in a place of mistrusting the world and dividing us and getting us to question, follow me because this is a tricky thing to talk about, so I'm just going to keep going, getting us to question even things that may be in our benefit, or question things that we actually should be concerned about or aware of or addressing or responding to, so that we don't respond to those things. I'm not here to tell you at all what to believe, but just by having this conversation and exploring the nuances of it and the some of the clashes and some of the things that kind of don't make sense when you just look at it from a broader perspective, I'm going to just leave it with you, some of the things that I brought up, to determine for yourself in your own experience what you determine to be a conspiracy versus just the world as corrupt. I think that everything is incredibly nuanced. And I think anytime we think we know, we don't. Anyone who thinks they have the whole story and they've got it all figured out doesn't. And that's a good thing. And I think if we can just make peace with the idea that the world is not perfect, everything is corrupt. maybe not everything, but corruption is prevalent, and humans are innately flawed, and that doesn't mean we're not going to be doing everything we possibly can to make the world a better place. It doesn't mean we should distrust everything, but it also doesn't mean we should stop questioning and that we should trust everything. I think we just need to get comfortable in this place of not knowing that we don't have the full picture. And in that place, trusting. And there's a trust that you can find outside of the imperfection of life and of the world. There's a trust in yourself. There's a trust in something beyond all of this, whatever that is for you. And that, I'm not here to tell you any of that, right? I think the more we can just be curious, the more we can actually be okay with being wrong about things. And I would say that if there's something, and I think most of us have certain things that we feel pretty certain about, and I'm not saying this to get you to go against whatever it is that you really feel certain about. This is about something different. But if you imagine the thing that you're most certain of, or the thing that you would feel the most devastated, or the one thing that if it wasn't true would be really difficult for you to admit. So if you thought about that thing and you considered that even if that wasn't true, even if you were wrong about that, would you still be okay? Would you be able to admit it? And how much more at peace and connected to others would you be if you had the willingness to admit that maybe something that you believed in for a really long time, that you put a lot of energy behind, that you really were so committed to, wasn't fully true? Maybe some of it's true, but maybe there are pieces of it that aren't exactly the story. Because I don't think any single one of us can have the story completely. And I think probably one of the best things that could happen on planet Earth is for whatever the truth is, to be something that does not make any one group of people right. Because then we would all have to admit that we were wrong. And that would be humbling. And that would be the thing that would free us from the madness of what we're doing here and allow us to actually connect to each other and to really focus on the things that matter. So there you go. I'll leave that there with you. And if you listen this far, thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll stay tuned. This was a little bit of a different flavor, but the whole point here is that we're connecting to the big picture and we're just exploring outside of things a little bit and seeing if we can come to a different way of seeing and approaching some of these challenges that we are experiencing. So I would very much appreciate your feedback and any support you can give, and I really hope to see you in the next video. Take care.